listening to Off Limits. Liberal, irreverent, and really, really gay.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Off Limits show. Thanks for joining me here today on the bullying show. We're talking tonight about, bullying, and not bullying just in the traditional sense, physical bullying, but also verbal bullying and intimidation, and also bullying by your own parents. Talking tonight about bullying from various perspectives, and the reason I wanted to talk about it was essentially there has been a lot of it going on lately on, Spreaker as well as on in the real world. And a friend of mine have a story to recount of his and what's going on with he and his boyfriend and what happened to his boyfriend when his boyfriend came out to his parents. So I wanted to discuss it in those forms because I think it's an important topic. I think a lot of people are bullied throughout their lifetime. And I think people, unfortunately, some people don't get past it and other people do. And some people allow themselves to continue to be a victim as they age and others don't. And it's not the fault of the victim that they're bullied necessarily. It's not their fault at all, actually. But it's about how you rise up and defend yourself, or if you do or if you don't, if you fight back, if you don't fight back, whatever, that I think matters. And when you're young, of course, that's difficult to do, and you don't have the mental capacity or the experience to know that bullies generally are just as afraid of you as they are as them, as the saying goes. And if you actually fight back, then they typically back down. So there's, hey, David, 5x5, thanks for joining me on the show tonight. So there's a lot of different ways to look at bullying and kind of examining why it exists and who are the perpetrators and who are the victims. Hold on a second. So the next hour, we're going to talk about that tonight on the show. And you have to excuse me, but I've been eating a lot of spicy food the past 3 or 4 days. And sometimes when I eat really, really spicy food a lot, I get an ulcer or whatever on my tongue or whatever. This is really gross, I know, but I have a spot on my tongue. It's not like a bump or raised or anything. It just hurts. It's like a spot on my tongue that hurts. And sometimes when I eat really spicy food, that happens. So if I'm talking kind of weird tonight, that's why, because it hurts to talk a little bit. But anyway, so back to what we're discussing. So I wanted to first talk about bullying from the perspective of a friend of mine. A friend of mine, I wanted to dedicate this show to he and his husband, his boyfriend. He and his boyfriend have been together for, I think, 6 years or something, or maybe 3 years. I can't remember how long they've been together, but they've been together for a long time. And my friend, we'll call him Chris, and his boyfriend, we'll call him what? We'll call him Dave. My friend Chris and Dave, they have been together for a long time, and they're both 24 years old. He's got a stable job, and he and my friend Chris is in school. They have an apartment together, and they were both raised as Southern Baptists. And his partner Dave came out just 2 weeks ago to his parents, and his parents are the only people he's told. Now, a little background for this, though. My friend Chris is he just came out about a month or two ago to his family, and I'd kind of counseled him a little bit on what to expect when he came out, and he asked me my advice, and so of course I gave it to him, and he was of course very afraid to come out to his family, but he did, and his family reacted initially very positive, and they were, "We love you," blah blah blah, and that he even had a couple of documentaries that he and I discussed that he knew about and I knew about. One called A Prayer for Bobby. Actually, no, it's a movie. And another one called The God That Wasn't There, I think was the other one he showed them. And he asked them to watch A Prayer for Bobby first. Now, his family, as I said, is Southern Baptist. And because they're Southern Baptist, and my grandmother was Southern Baptist. I was raised in a Southern Baptist type home, even though I'm not a Southern Baptist. So I understand Southern Baptists. I understand how they're thinking and how they think. And they, among all of the sections or parts of Christianity, are the most, I think, crazy about their religion. I mean, they really are completely devout. Most of the ones I've met, it's really hard to sway them away from their religious beliefs, even when their religious beliefs are completely irrational, don't make any sense to anyone except for them because they've been, brainwashed by their pastors. Well, anyway, to believe everything in the Bible is literal or whatever. And a lot of times Southern Baptists are literalists. And so anyhow, this my friend Chris and his boyfriend Dave were both raised also in that kind of environment, and they're also from a deep Southern state, so they're surrounded by people who are very, very vehemently anti-gay and very vehemently anti-black and anti this, anti that, anti whatever, anything that's not white, Anglo-Saxon, heterosexual, Protestant, male or female, they're pretty much against generally. You know how it goes in the South. So anyway, that's what he's surrounded by, both of them, where they live. They live out in the middle. They live in, I think, a college town, but a small one in a very kind of medium populated type state. So I'm just trying to paint the picture here. And so so my friend Chris came out to his family, showed them the documentaries, and they were pretty open to discussing it with him, whatever. And then a couple weeks later, they kind of changed their mind and kind of pushed back about it, and they were back and forth about it. And my friend told them that, and I basically told him this as well. I said, he asked my opinion of what he should do about that. And I said, look, they can either accept you or they don't. They can accept you or not accept you. And if they're going to accept you, they can be part of your life. If they don't accept you, then they won't be part of your life. That's pretty much it. And I said, lay down the gauntlet. And I don't know if he did it because of what I said or just because he'd already decided on his own, but he did that. And it seems to have worked to some degree. They seem to want him in their lives. And in order to do that, they know they have to try to accept him. So they've been working hard at doing that. Now, they are nowhere near completely accepting of him. However, his family is on the spectrum of a scale of 1 to 10. His family, in terms of acceptance, I'd say, just from what he's told me, I'd say it's probably around a 6 or 7, maybe a 6 or 7, somewhere in that range, okay? All right, so that's what happened with him a couple of months ago. And I guess as a result of seeing what happened with my friend Chris, his partner David actually decided to come out on his own. Because he saw that even though it wasn't an easy road, that what had happened with his partner's family motivated him and encouraged him to come out to his own because he was tired of living a lie and tired of being in the closet, blah, blah, blah. And so he hoped that the same thing would happen with him. So he came out to his family, and his family, this is my friend Chris's partner, came out to his family, and his family basically started crying. Well, actually, he told his mother, I think what I was told was his mother was there with him by herself. I think this is what he was told. Maybe I saw this in a movie. I can't remember if this is what he told me or not. No. I was thinking of something else. Sorry. No. Anyway, so his mother and father broke down in tears or whatever, and were having a big deal with it, whatever. So they did not accept it well. And so today, Dave went over to his family again. He was with his family or whatever. And this is what they told them. And I'm reading to you what was told to me today because I want you to hear how they reacted. I mean, this is probably a week later after he came out, maybe 2 weeks, I'm not sure, about a week, I think. And this is what happened. And he said, this is what Dave's family said about Chris. Chris is his partner, okay? So Dave, and he came out, and they said this to Dave. They said, you can just tell Chris is a dark person because of his dark posters in his rooms. And the darkest poster in his room, according to Chris, is the Scream painting, which is art. I agree. So Scream, by the way, is one of my favorite all-time posters of all time. My favorite paintings, I should say. And it's by Edvard Munch. And so it's one of my favorite all-time. It's the one, if you've never seen it, the guy is on a bridge, and he looks like he's screaming. He's like, his hands are on his face, or I think, and he's like, ah, like that. And it's like kind of red and orange or whatever, it swirls around him. And so anyway, it's a great painting. So they have, so that's what they were calling a dark picture. The fact that he had this type of poster in his room. And it's insane that they're so completely ignorant that they don't even know what art is. So that's the first thing. The second thing is they said they don't want Dave to be with Chris, or did I call him Chris? I can call him Chris because Chris is not a Christian. And Dave asked if he found a guy who was a Christian, would they be okay with him dating them? And they didn't say anything. And they said that Chris doesn't know God, and they do. They said that Dave is listening to Chris and not them, and they apparently know the right way, and he doesn't. And they're being very self-righteous about everything. They still want Dave to go home for Christmas. And so they say that if they really love each other, that they'll be together at the end of that year. I guess they're saying they want him to come home for a year so they can fix him or whatever, so they fix the gay out of him or push the gay out of him. And they said that he's never tried dating a woman, so how would he know that he's gay? They asked Dave if Dave was still going to church, if his church group knew. Dave told them that he may not tell them, and his parents said, well, then you'll be living a lie. And they think since that Chris doesn't go to church that he's evil. They think that Dave is being fooled by Chris because Chris doesn't love Dave as much as they do. They've known and loved him much longer than he has, they say. And they're cutting him off because they say that they can't support him financially anymore. They can't knowingly support him in any way, knowing that he is choosing to do something wrong. At the same time, when Dave left his house, his dad handed him a handful of 20s before he left. So I'm not really sure what that means. And his mom said that because Dave is so healthy, likes juice and fruit juice and stuff like that, takes care of himself, what if he gets AIDS? And they were literally on their hands and knees begging Dave to come home. Literally, they were begging him to come home. This is how insane they are about this. And they said, there's a couple more things. They said that basically said that Chris was turning Dave against them and blah blah blah, and that he asked if Dave had thought about moving out of the apartment, seeing if the relationship lasts. And he tried also to show them a documentary, the same documentaries that Chris showed his parents, and they refused to watch anything at all. Because they say that Chris is lost and he's not a Christian. What else do they say? Hold on, almost done. And they found out that Dave actually met with his pastor and wants him to keep talking to him. And also the worst part of this is that Dave is having thoughts of suicide for the first time in his life. And this has created doubts about his relationship with Chris, because but they pulled through. Now, the problem with this is that, when you're in a kind of relationship, any kind of relationship you're in, you have ebbs and flows. But this particular issue being raised where neither side of your family approves of you being gay, whether it's your partner's family or your family, and you're both being subjected to this Christian bullshit, then it really puts a strain on your relationship. So he was thinking about apparently leaving him for a year to appease his parents, but he decided not to do that. And so anyway, he's still struggling or whatever, and this is going through this, and it just hurts my heart that people in 2013, we still have these idiots out there. And I'm sorry to call Dave's parents idiots, but they actually are very ignorant people. Obviously, they're ignorant and they're brainwashed. And the reason I say they're brainwashed is because you can be a Christian, you can go to church, you can listen to your pastor, etc. But you should always, and I've always said this, in my opinion, you should always question everything you're told. No matter what it is, question it. Do not take everything at face value. Just because the pastor tells you something, go check it out for yourself and decide for yourself what you believe. Don't just believe like a fucking flock of sheep everything that the pastor tells you or the priest or whatever, just because it comes out of their mouth. That is another human being. It is not God. It is not Christ. It is simply a human being who is trying to interpret or pass on their interpretation of their book, which in this case would be the Bible. So it isn't exactly, for me, when people are completely devoid of rational thinking, as these people are, because the problem is that they are essentially turning their back on their son that they are supposed to love and love unconditionally, which is what being a parent is all about, in my opinion. Instead of actually accepting him completely, they are, instead of actually accepting him completely, they are pushing him away. And they're saying, if you're not going to be who we want you to be, then you cannot be a part of our lives. Instead of saying, we will accept you for who you are going to be and who you are, and we will get over it. And because that's what you need to do. Because you have to realize, parents out there, that your children are not meant to be reflections of you. And a lot of parents look at their kids and think, oh, my kid's going to do all the things that I wasn't able to do, or they're going to have grandkids and give me the grandkids I want, or they're going to do this and going to do that, going to be CEO, going to be president, whatever. And unfortunately, people have to realize your kids are their own people, just like you are your own person, just like everybody has their own choices to make in life. And you can't expect that your kid is going to do everything that you want them to do just because you say. Would you want a child to be that completely devoid of critical thinking, or that completely devoid of knowing who they are, that they just do whatever the fuck you want them to do just because you say so? I'm sure there are parents out there who do want that. But if you're a good parent, I don't care if you have kids or not, if you're going to be a good parent, if you are a good parent, you are going to be someone who accepts your child for who they are and what they are 100%. That is unconditional love. So if these people are not accepting their child because their child isn't what they want him to be, then they do not unconditionally love their child. So I'm sorry that there are parents out there who feel that this is acceptable. Now, I know that a lot of you are completely, people who listen to my show, especially if you're gay and you've had to come out and your parents, and you didn't have a good experience coming out to them. I know that we love our parents. The thing is, we are raised by our parents. The first people we know, they're the people that have the most influence on who we become and who we are as people, obviously. And so it's normal to want to please your parents, and it's normal to want to make them proud of you. It is completely normal, and it I think would almost be abnormal for you not to want those things. But you have to be able to be yourself, and that, whatever that is, has to be enough for your parents to love you and accept you, because that's the job that they have when they brought you into this world. It wasn't, I'm going to have a kid, and this kid better be exactly what the fuck I want him to be, and if he's not what I want him to be, then fuck him. I'm kicking out of my house, or I'm not supporting him financially anymore. I'm not having anything to do with him anymore, because he didn't do what I expected him to do, or asked him to do, or wanted him to do. He instead did what he wanted to do. Oh my God, isn't that horrible? It's a horrible thing to actually make your own fucking decisions in life and to be who you were born to be, isn't it? Isn't that a horrible thing? So anyway, it just made me very sad that this family has come to this type of decision, about their lives. This type of decision, in that they are going to, instead of being accepting of their child, they're going to tell him, you be who we want you to be, or we don't have anything to do with you. Now, what my advice is to David, or Dave, as I'm calling this guy, is this. I hope you're listening to this, and if you're not, I hope that Chris tells Dave what I'm saying. Let me get a drink. Sorry. So, my advice is this, and I know it's hard, and like I said, I know that your parents are important to you, as they should be, but you need to tell your parents that you sit them down and say to them, A, that simply because you're gay doesn't mean you're not a Christian. And I don't know if you are a Christian or not, but if you are a Christian, to say, just because I'm gay doesn't make me not a Christian. Just like being someone who eats pork or someone who wears clothing of two different types of fabric doesn't make me not a Christian. Or just because somebody who's an adulterer doesn't make them not a Christian, as it's been shown many times by, pastors and stuff like that, televangelists and stuff like that. But I'm just saying that tell them, just because if that's their hang-up point, that it doesn't matter whether you're a Christian or not anyway, because this has nothing to do with your Christianity. You are who you are, regardless of what religion you follow, whether you're Christian or not. And even if you are Christian, being gay doesn't preclude you from being such. It's, and you have to explain to them also, look, how I live my life is what I'll be judged by. If you believe in all this stuff, I don't believe in this stuff, but I'm just assuming you're a Christian since you were raised that way. And, how you live your life is how you will be judged by God or whatever when you die. Not who you had, whether you loved and whether you were loved and how you showed love to people, how you used your life, how you used it for good to help other people, society, blah, blah, blah. That is what you'll be judged by, not who you have sex with. And it's not about sex. And you explain to them it's not about sex. I mean, I know this is stuff that's hard to say to your parents, but look, I think you need to kind of shock them and disarm them. And the way to disarm them is to be shocking verbally this way. To say, look, it's not about the sex that I have. It's not about what I do in bed. It's not about who I love. What it is about is who I am as an individual. That's the first thing you should tell them. Secondly, you need to tell them, I mean, the ultimatum you need to give them is what I gave to my father, but not my mom. I didn't have to give one to her when I came out. But and what I told Chris to do to his, tell them, you either accept me for who and what I am, and I will be part of your life, or you don't accept me and keep trying to change me, keep trying to tell me I'm evil and disgusting and wrong, and I will have nothing to do with you anymore. So if you want to be part of my life, then you've got to decide whether you want to accept me and move forward and stop trying to change me because I am what I am, or not having part of your life. And that is your choice. And then I would leave and tell them, you make the decision. If I hear from you again, fine, but I don't want to hear any more about me trying to change myself. Instead, what I want to hear is we love you as you are because you're our son, and we are not going to try to change you anymore. And I mean, it's seriously just lay down the gauntlet and say, either take me as I am or not. And I don't know if you want to go this route. The other way to go, another way to go is to say, and I don't know your parents or anything like that, and I know you're young, and I know how it is when you're young, especially in your age range, and you're afraid to confront them. Some people are. I was never afraid, but some people are afraid of their parents to some degree, especially if you depend upon them for money or financial assistance or whatever. But you can tell them that what their beliefs are simply beliefs. You can call them out on their beliefs and the bullshit. And the fact that they are not using their brains, instead of using their brains, they're simply being sheep and following their pastor. They're not actually listening to what God is about or what God says about people. What God or Christ or whatever said, he never said one word about homosexuality, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you could go on and on. I mean, I'm serious. And there's many books and there's pamphlets and stuff you can give them, which I'm sure they wouldn't read, I know at this point especially. But I bet you eventually they would pick it up. I mean, if you bought them a book about, okay, so your son is gay or your child is gay, or there's a million books out there like that. Or, how to reconcile Christianity with your gay son or your gay daughter or whatever you want to speak to them on their level. If that's something that they're so adamant about, then bring them a book or whatever and tell them that this is who you are. And here's some information about being gay and Christian. And yeah, they probably won't pick it up for a month, 2 months, 6 months until they actually come to the conclusion that they would rather have you in their life, just as like Chris had told me he had said to you himself, I think. So I agree that you should essentially give them an ultimatum and walk out of their lives if they can't accept you for who and what they are. And look, you have to also know that Dave, that this is your life to live, and do not get upset. Do not allow yourself to get so upset that you are contemplating suicide, as I was told. Life, I swear, in your 20s, it seems like the fucking end of the world. I'm telling you, when you were in your 20s, you were like so filled with hormones and emotions and everything else, especially when you're going through something like this, and you feel like it's the end of the world because you don't have a lot of life experience to compare it to. And so it feels like the end of the world. It feels like you're going to disappoint your family, your parents, whatever, and that is the end of the world. But I'm telling you that your life is literally just beginning. Your life really is just beginning. You are not by any chance done. This is barely the beginning of your life. I'm telling you, when I was 19 years old, I almost killed myself. And I've talked about it on my show before, what happened and everything, but I was over a guy. I mean, hey, I look back on my life and think, why in the fuck would I kill myself over some fucking man? Why would I kill myself at all? But at that time, in that moment, I was so distraught and so hurt and so emotionally completely devoid of any sort of strength and I'd been beaten down so many times, and just by the whole situation I was in at the moment, that I really felt that there was, it wasn't that I wanted to die, it's that I wanted the pain to end, the emotional pain that I was having. And so I'm sure that you don't want to die, and I'm sure that you feel the same way I felt in that moment, where I felt, like I just couldn't deal with the pain anymore, because it does get to you and it is overwhelming, but you will make it through. I swear to God, you'll make it through. And the way you'll make it through is with the support of your partner, Chris, and with the support of your friends that you eventually will come out to someday. And I'm telling you, the friends will be easier than your family ever was, most likely. And also just having strength within yourself to realize that your parents, I don't know them. I don't know them or anything, obviously. I don't know how they feel about you, but I assume that somewhere deep down they love you, and they, in their twisted minds, think that what they're doing for you is the right thing. And that's why they're so adamant about it, because in their twisted minds, they believe that Christianity is the only way and blah, blah, blah. See, that's the thing about Christianity, is it brainwashes you into all these things. It doesn't allow for any outside ideas. And that's, by the way, one of the signs of a cult. If you question something, there's always because God says so, or because Jesus Christ said so, because the Bible says so, blah, blah, blah. You can't ever answer a question. A lot of times Christians can answer questions directly. It's always because of this, because of that, because of the Bible, blah, blah, blah. But never a rational answer. And that's one of the signs of a cult. So your parents, in my opinion, are part of a cult, and the cult is telling them this person is disgusting and this person is evil and they're going to hell, and if you don't do something about it, then it's your fault as a parent, you failed, and blah, blah, blah. So they're having all these emotions right now, feeling this about how they fucking failed you, and how they failed themselves, and how they failed their God, and all this kind of bullshit that's so fucking nonsensical to me, but to them, in their minds, is real. So even though it's difficult to see it from their perspective, put yourself in their shoes and try to have a little compassion, even though I know it's really hard for them, because I know you're a bigger person than they are. You're a better person than they are, because I know that you yourself obviously have a heart and you actually love your parents, and that's why you're so distraught over this. So remember that they're going to need time. So all you're going to have to do is wait it out. Wait it out. And if you don't see them again for a month or 6 months or a year, maybe 2 years. I mean, it could be a while. I don't know how long it's going to take them. But if they really love you, honestly love you, they will come around eventually. And I'm not saying that you need to turn your back on them completely, but I'm saying you need to give them an ultimatum and follow through with it. Meaning, accept me for what I am. If you want to be part of my life, accept me who I am and what I am. Or get the fuck out of my life. That's basically the ultimatum. And I bet you, when you give them that ultimatum, they're going to say, we want you in our lives. I mean, eventually. Maybe not initially, but eventually. So I just wanted to say all that to you and say that it made me cry a little bit about when I heard what was happening to you, because I feel so this is bigotry speaking. It's bigotry. It's the cult of Christianity. It's the lies that are continually told to people about gay people. Gay people are the scapegoat of this culture. You know, when anything goes wrong with any kind of part of our culture, it's because of gay people, or it's, gay people are preying on our children, or gay people are tearing up the fabric of our country or society, or gay marriage is going to ruin everything. I mean, it's always gay people this, gay people that. So you are, unfortunately, just, how do I put this? You're beginning to see what it's like to be an outcast. And if you're gay, you were born an outcast, whether you like it or not, because that's the way you were born. You can't change that. Now, even if people decide to stay in the closet and they want to stay in the closet their entire lives, which is a very, very unfun type of way to live and a very unhealthy way to live, obviously, they're still gay. So they're still gay. So you can either choose to live your life for yourself or live your life for someone else. And I know you're going to make the right decision and live your life for yourself and not for them. So that's all I'll say about that right now. And I want to talk about bullying in general. And for the last half hour of the show. So bullying, people, all of us, I think, especially if you're gay or you're a racial minority or you're even a woman, possibly sexual minority or transgendered or anything, you have been bullied at some point in your life. There's no doubt in my mind. No one escapes bullying throughout their lifetime. Now, there are different types of bullying. Like I said, there's the bullying where it's physical, and there's bullying where it's verbal or harassment or whatever. And physically bullied, I've only been physically bullied once, I think, or twice in my life, and when I was in middle school and maybe elementary school once, and that was it. And but after that, I was never bullied again, physically anyway. And then even otherwise, the typical teenage stuff I wasn't privy to, when I was in high school. And so it wasn't until I got into, the kind of bullying that kind of happens as you age is more mental and more emotional bullying. And so as we grow older, people will call you names, whether it's faggot or nigger or kike or spick, or I'm trying to think of all the horrible names I can think of, or whore, or whatever the word is that is offensive to you. And words in and of themselves are nothing. And I've said this before, that words are only words unless they're true, which is a Madonna song. And that's true. And the problem is that people internalize things that are told to them. So when you hear somebody call you a faggot or call you whatever, and you're not prepared for it, it can actually hurt your feelings or harm you in some way. But when you've been called a faggot or the N-word or a million other things over and 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 over again throughout your lifetime, as you age, you become desensitized to it. It no longer has a meaning to you. It doesn't harm your feelings or anything. I was called a faggot for the first time when I was like 14, I think. And it didn't hurt my feelings. It never hurt my feelings. That word never hurt me or anything. I was only called nigger once in my entire life, and that was by an uncle. A great uncle, I should say. He wasn't so great. But my grandfather's, on my mom's side, grandfather's uncle, who's long dead, and he was really old then, too, in his 80s or something. But he called me that. I talked about this on the show before as well. But that hurt because I was only 13 years old and also didn't identify myself that way, and most people didn't either. So to be called that, the N-word, was incredibly painful for me. And that was the first time, actually that was the only time I've ever been called that my entire life, by anybody that I knew. And so it hurt very deeply. And I remember how visceral, how deeply it hurt me and scarred me in that moment. I literally remember the moment in my head. I'll never forget it, because I remember the pain I felt. And so that made me feel and doubt in my youth, who I was. It made me think, well, does being half black make me lesser than other people? Or does being half black make me somehow disgusting or wrong, whatever? And I had to realize ultimately, as I grew older and matured, obviously, that it wasn't me at all. It was this fucking moron who called me this, my fucking blood relative, by the way. So I was having to come to the conclusion that, and this applies to everybody, whenever you're called something by somebody, you're bullied with words, it is never, ever a reflection on you. It is always a reflection on the person who is doing the bullying, the verbal abuse or harassment or whatever. That person is ignorant, and if they're not ignorant and they're still doing it, then they're just a fucking moron, obviously. And the fact is that these people have absolutely no real, typically have very few redeeming qualities of their own. And they're typically right-wing Republicans or right-wing people who are scared. And they're scared of losing their way of life or whatever you want to put it. So they hang all of their issues and problems on Mexicans or black people or gay people or whatever. And so you have to realize that these issues are not about you. So don't feel hurt by these words that people use against you just because they're coming at you doesn't mean a fucking thing. And to me, as I said, I'm so desensitized to it all now. It doesn't mean anything to me. It doesn't hurt me, internally. However, what pisses me off about it isn't the word. People can call me faggot. People can call me names or any kind of name they want. I don't really care if I don't know you. It doesn't matter to me. And that's the truth. What pisses me off is that people who do it think that it's okay. And I'm like, I really can't wrap my brain around it. I can't wrap my brain around why someone would want to spew hatred so badly, especially towards people you don't even know. It doesn't make sense or compute logically in my brain. So when I am subjected to that kind of thing, what I'm thinking is this person is like so low class. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, literally, that's the first thing I think. They're like so low class. They have they probably have a 5th grade education. They're probably missing their teeth, and they probably smell, and they're probably on Section 8 or whatever, and that's okay that they're on Section 8, but they're probably eat government cheese every day. My point is, these people are people who, I don't know why it is, it's people who are downtrodden financially a lot of times are the ones who espouse hatred the most. So, for example, in Nazi Germany, why was it that Hitler was able to rise to power? If you don't know your history, but you won't know that. But the reason he was able to rise to power is because Germany was in a major recession, just like we are today, and they needed a new leader, and they found this charismatic leader of the Nazi Party, whom initially had just said that he wanted to bring back the glory of Germany, blah, 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 and give jobs to everybody and whatever. And he did a lot of these things through his socialist policies. However, he also said that to blame for all of this were the Jews. He blamed it all on the Jews because he had a personal vendetta against Jewish people. The Jews had nothing to do with the economy, but he needed a scapegoat, and he hated Jews anyway, so he used Jews as the example, and that is how we had the beginning of World War II, and how we had all millions of Jews who were murdered and killed and exterminated in concentration camps, as well as gay people, by the way, as well as political prisoners in those places. So it usually comes from people who feel powerless, is my point. If you are somebody who is being called a faggot or a nigger or a spick or whatever the word is, and that person that's calling you those things feels powerless. They themselves are revealing that about themselves at that moment in time. They at that moment are saying, what they're saying without words is that I feel powerless, and in order for me to feel more powerful and better about myself, I'm now going to call you names to try to make you feel bad. And what they're really revealing about themselves is everything that they're feeling inside internally, that they themselves are powerless, that they themselves feel bad about themselves and feel, lesser than or inferior. Yes, I agree. Well, I think it's more, from my perspective, Pimp Daddy Joel P says in the chat room, it's Jews to Germany equals Mexicans to America. I agree with that to an extent, and you feel that way because you yourself are Hispanic. That's fine, but I agree with that to an extent. Absolutely, Mexicans are absolutely vilified in America because there are so many immigrants here from America, whether legal or not, and white people in general, feel very, very threatened by having their way of life changed because of all these Mexicans coming in here. That's what they think. I mean, they may not say that, but that's how they feel. They're threatened by Mexicans. And they're threatened by them. And that's why they spew so much hatred, and they don't want immigration reform and blah, 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 blah. If there were a bunch of Canadians from Quebec, a bunch of French Canadians who spoke French instead of Mexican and had white skin instead of tan skin, then they would not be having an issue with it at all, even though their culture is different than their own. Just because they're from Canada and Quebec, that's basically another part of France. They speak French there, and that's all, mostly. It's a main language anyway. And it's a very different culture than it is in the rest of Canada as well as in America. So if you had those people coming over here from influx of French Canadians, in the same numbers as we have Mexicans, do you really think they'd be having a big issue with it because they're blonde hair, blue eyed, or whatever? No, they wouldn't. We all know that that's the case. But what I was going to say is it's also true about gay people. Gay people are vilified for the same reason, because people a lot of times don't know, people who are anti-gay a lot of times don't know a gay person. Or they've been told in their church that gay people are evil or disgusting and wrong. Or that's what the culture they were raised in, which could be Mexican culture, or it could be black culture, it could be the white culture, whatever. And that culture has deemed them to be different or other than they are. And unfortunately, they see gay people as a threat for the same reason. And they see that, they're going to change our way of life and our culture and blah, blah, blah. When the reality is, this is a fucking huge country with millions of people in it. There's plenty of fucking room for everybody. There is plenty of pie to go around, okay? So in order to actually change the culture to the point where it's unrecognizable, in some ways that's a good thing. If the culture changing, meaning you have less bigotry, both through race and both through homophobia and and misogyny and things like that against women, then yes, that's a fucking great thing. So what if the culture changes? And what makes a country great and what's made America great is not just one kind of person coming in here. By the way, I'm getting a little off topic, if that's okay. But by the way, America was not built by white people. It was not built by black people. It was not built by Mexicans. It was not built by Asians. It was built by all of us, okay? Every fucking one of us have built this fucking country. My family's been here since 1609, and I know, and I've had people in Mayflower before that, which, distant relatives. John Alderton was his name. And so I know that I am a huge part of the fabric of this country, my people are. And that means both black people and white people. And it means Irish people. It means German people. It means, everybody's a part of this country. And black people have been here before anybody else besides white people, after of course, Native Americans. So, because they were part of the slave trade. So my point is that there's plenty of fucking room to go around, but this country was not built by one. Yes, there has been a section of this country in power of the culture of America for a great long time. Why have they been in power? Because they've oppressed people through slavery, through anti-misogyny laws, I'm not going to have a whole fucking show about that, but they have done so much to oppress people, not allowing black people to own land forever for the longest time, not allowing black people to have rights and to vote, and the same for women and the same for gay. Come on. Not giving them an equal shot in society of America. And that has been the reason that the white race in America has dominated, not because they're so much better than any other race, but because they have oppressed others and prevented them from rising up. Now that the rest of those races are coming up and rising to the top and having more equality and having more money and having more opportunities and having more education, those kinds of things are happening slowly, finally, after hundreds and hundreds of years of oppression. Now they're fucking afraid. They're fucking afraid. And that's the bottom line. They're afraid that the rest of them are going to take over. And as I've told you before on my shows, that the Caucasian race, of which half of me is, by the way, and half of my family is, which I love, and there's the black race, which I'm half as well. These two races have been warring back and forth for a very long time. But the minorities in this country, blacks, Hispanics, and Asians to some small degree, but blacks and Hispanics mostly in this country, will be the predominant races in this country, mostly Mexicans generally, Mexicans of Mexican descent or Hispanic descent, in this country by 2025. So no longer will the Caucasian race be the dominant race in this country, and that will, of course, change this culture to some degree. We'll finally have probably a Hispanic president someday soon. We'll probably have we forgot a black president, I'm sorry. We'll probably have an Asian president after that. And then we're going to have, we're going to have a woman president before anybody. But we're going to have a change in the way this country looks and the way this country functions as a result of having more participation in the fabric of what makes America America, and not just having it look like one swatch of white, but a swatch of, but having multitudes of swatch, like a blanket full of swatches. And that is what's fucking amazing. So all the bullying I'm talking about, and all the crap that happens as a result of being a fucking American or just being different, whether you're gay, whether you're Hispanic, whether you're black, whether you're a woman, whether you're transgendered, whatever it is you are, Asian, Native American, I mean, I could go on, but anyway, you get the picture. Whatever it is you are, you have to remember that when someone is bullying you or calling you names as a result of what you are were born as, they are simply saying, I'm scared of you, I'm intimidated by you, and I feel inferior to you. And generally, they are. So let's see. WGR Network, what do you want to say to me? You're in there trying to cause trouble. What do you want to say to me, WGR Network? You got something to say? You're going to sit there and be a little pussy. Come on, say it, fucker. What do you have to say? You want to say something else? You're not saying anything now? Come on, speak up. Speak up, dumb fuck. Say something. You going to say something, you little wuss? Little pussy boy? I didn't think so. Okay. Alrighty. I'm not going to talk about that thing, that disgusting, smelly, old, decrepit, disgusting thing that you're discussing in the chat right now, because my life doesn't revolve around that thing like that person's life revolves around me. So whatever, you fuckhead. You obviously don't know what the fuck you're talking about, because I am so not interested. So goodbye, you fucker. Anyway, so anywho, I'm going to say that, oh, I'm sure it's one of her minions. She's sitting in here. I'm sure she's listening because she can't help herself. But that's okay. Whatever. I'll be talking about her soon enough. Soon enough. In another way, through the law. Anyway, so, so I just wanted to say that because, really honestly, when it comes to people bullying other people, it's really just on them. And so you've got to allow yourself to, and I think it comes with age and it comes with time. The more you're bullied, or the more you're called names, or the more you're called something by someone, it becomes rote and irrelevant to you and doesn't have any meaning. As I've said before, as I said 2 or 3 weeks ago on my show, I don't care if people call me on their shows. This is not about that, and I don't care. People can talk about me on my show. And as I've said before, that people who are on my shows, I mean, as someone who does a show, I understand it. And this is what I've said before. People who have shows on Spreaker, or a real show on Sirius XM radio, or a real show on terrestrial radio, or national TV, or an actor or an actress, anybody who's in the public eye, whether it's a small, little, tiny fucking nothing show like these on Spreaker, or real national shows or worldwide shows you see like Oprah Winfrey or whatever, these people, all of us are putting ourselves out there to be commented on, for people to make commentary on. And so we are, to some degree, as a public figure, and I've said this many times before on my show, that's what we are. And so as public figures, people are going to talk about us, whatever. I don't fucking care anymore about that stuff. So I've told you the difference, and I'm not going to talk about that tonight, but you know the difference if you have a fucking brain in your head. So for me, it's more about trying to have a good conversation with people, and trying to have people who actually want to fucking listen to what you're saying and not just try to come in and cause trouble, as WGR tried to do. So, and by the way, people, you come into my show, you want to have a real talk and discussion with me about something, and something real, and not some fucking drama you're trying to fucking stir up because you're a shit stirrer. I'm happy to discuss anything I'm discussing on the show with you. I usually have the phone lines open where people can call in or whatever. Don't ban him. That's what you know who would do. I'm a banner, you fucker. I ban people. If I don't like you, I ban you. And if you don't like it, you can fucking leave. So I ban people. If people don't want to, no, fuck you. I'm not going to ignore it. Fuck you. If you're in my chat room and calling me fucking names and shit like that and calling me out on stuff, and I'm supposed to sit here and just ignore it, I don't fucking think so. You go have your own show, Pimp Daddy Joel P, and you ignore it. But on my show, if I don't like what you're saying because you're being, you're stirring shit up for no reason, has nothing to do with what we're talking about, and you're calling me fucking names and shit, then yeah, you fucking better believe I'm going to fucking ban your ass, because that's what I do. I don't give a shit what that other person does. This is what I do. Okay. So that's what I want to say about bullying, and I hope you guys have a great night, and I'm going to be back tomorrow and talking about having a full regular show. Just want to talk about these things and talk about my friends who actually said that, okay? So, oh, there she is again. She can't stay away. She can't stay away from here. It's so funny. Anyway, so I just wanted to say these few things about bullying and make that known, as well as talk to my friend Dave that I talked to you about earlier, and his partner, what they're going through with coming out and how he could possibly handle that, and how really honestly to deal better with it, okay? So if you want to email me, you can email me at info@offlimitshow.com. If you have a comment, you want to comment to something because I banned your ass, feel free. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later, and have a great night. Good night.